Welcome, everybody, to No Room for Comfort. I am your host, Jesse Waterhouse. And on today's episode, I am going to be talking about the physiology of music, the profound effects that music has on the human mind, as well as the reasons why that I think that music is a special form of therapy. I want to thank everyone for joining me today. The reason why I started this podcast in the first place was so that I could help people in aspects of their lives regarding self-worth, confidence, and any other positive forms moving forward in their life. So thank you for joining me today. You can find me live on YouTube as well as Twitch. I have a Discord server that is open with a link in the bio. And I am on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can see all of those links in the bio as well. If you have any suggestions or questions about this episode, or suggestions for further topics in upcoming episodes, please email me at noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. If you have a unique story and you would like to be a live guest on this show, a calling guest on this show, please email me at noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first half of this episode is going to talk about my experiences with the physiology of music and what music means to me. So I'll just get started with my story. So when I was 13 years old, my parents bought me my first guitar. That was my first experience or introduction into performing music. At that time, obviously, I was a teenager, so I was actively listening to music and I was inspired by music. I have family members who were involved in music. I had an uncle who played drums, and I had an uncle who played guitar, and they actually at some point got together and then they kind of formed a band of their own, and they played covers and did all this cool stuff and played all these local bars in Wisconsin. And I thought it was really awesome. And when I was at that age, even, I started going to concerts, and I went to a concert and I felt so inspired by what I saw. I was like, man, I want to do something. And the thing is, my parents bought me a guitar, but I wanted to be a drummer. Like, from the very heart of it, I wanted to be a drummer. I thought that there was something about drumming where it's like, being able to split your mind into four parts where you have two hands and 2 feet, and you can do all these things on a drum set and make it come out sounding the way drummers make things sound. And I thought that was so awesome. But, I don't know if my parents thought it would be like a little bit too much annoying for me to be like a drummer. So they didn't fall for it or didn't go for it. And another thing about drumming is it's a very expensive, it's probably the most expensive instrument in the band to get into. So like if I'm going to be playing drums, cymbals have to be replaced all the time after they're cracked. You have to buy drumsticks, it's like you're physically beating on this instrument. With a guitar, it's like you break a string, you buy a $6, $7, $8, probably $8 pack of strings nowadays. And nothing. You could play guitar for years and keep up on it and maintain it, and it'd be a very good instrument for years to come. So the guitar they bought me was a mahogany ruby red Dean Avalanche guitar, which is, it's a little bit cool in this aspect, but it's like, I don't know if it's when they went to the music store and they're like, oh, I saw a Dean. And my middle name is Dean. So they're like, let's buy him a Dean. We don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I never actually asked them why they bought a Dean, but within the music that I was looking to learn and within the music I ended up progressing towards, Dean's ended up falling in line with the type of guitar playing style that I wanted to learn all along. So it was a very good choice. They're a very good quality American guitar brand, and I have utmost respect for them. And it was this cherry red mahogany body. A little bit of a heavy guitar, but it had this overtone of pearl on the pick guard. And it had dual humbucker pickups, pickup selector, volume knob, tone knob. Really cool for somebody who's 13 years old. So at that very day and days beyond that, I started playing that guitar. And I didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. Of course, I'm just starting out. So I start playing that guitar, and I'm just strumming, making the most god-awful sounds on this guitar. And I'm trying to play this thing without annotation. And by what I mean by that is this guitar wasn't even in tune. I didn't even know that at that point. But I had gotten some books that my parents gave me with this guitar, because they weren't necessarily like, oh, we're not going to throw you into guitar lessons right away. We kind of want to see how you like it. We got you these books. Let's see what you can do with this guitar and go from there. Needless to say, I was always self-taught. I never did end up taking any guitar lessons, but I have been playing guitar for 20 plus years now. And now I own a plethora of different guitars and experimented with different guitars and all sorts of things like that. And when I started playing this guitar and got into this book, I'm like, oh, the first thing I'm going to need to do is learn how to tune it. I'm not going to be able to play anything in any tuning if it isn't tuned. So I learned how to tune it. At a 13-year-old boy, I sat down and I learned how to tune the guitar. I learned it in two different ways. First of all, they got me like this synchronized tuner. And this is a type of tuner that basically kind of had a speaker that would pick up on the sound that the guitar was making. And you would have it by the guitar, by the amplifier, and I got a little amplifier with it, and I would play, and it would light up, and it would tell me what note I'm on. And then I would end up tuning each string to the note that it needed to be on, depending on the type of tuning. Back then, there were songs that I kind of wanted to learn that ended up being in standard tuning, EAD, GBE. So I picked them up, and I tuned to each string to standard tuning. As other guitar players would know, there are many different levels of guitar tunings. And with the type of metal music that I got into and started progressing into, I started playing in drop tuning levels and things like that. But with different gauge strings and all sorts of technical stuff. But back then, I got it set up so that I can learn my first song. And then I started playing. As I started playing and I started to learn my first song, the moment that I got something down where I learned like a verse of a song or a first part of a song, I felt ecstatic. I felt there's this feeling that came over me that was unlike even going to any concert. It was just, wow, like I picked this up. And then I started playing that. But the thing is like I played that and it's like over and over and over. And then as I progressed, I eventually learned the song, and then I learned different things that I was inspired by. And I got to the point to where I started learning different techniques of the guitar, because as I started growing older, there were musicians and bands that were coming out that I was like, holy crap, this is unbelievable. The way they're playing guitar, I want to learn how to play guitar just like that. And the thing is I could have the sheet music in front of me, but the way that they make it sound, you can't really exactly do if you're just playing note music, which I actually used tablatures and looked at note music to determine my time signatures. So I used tablatures, which would tell you which fingers, where your fingers needed to be, where your hands needed to be, which strings you needed to strum. But I also could recognize the timing of it because of the notes were above it. And I didn't necessarily learn how to read the music itself, knowing that, well, I see this note on a page, so I'm going to know to put my fingers in that location. Well, the tablatures help me with that side of things. But as far as the timing side of things go, that's where those notes came into play, because I knew what a 16th note was. I knew what a quarter rest was. I knew what, like an eighth note was, things like that. So that helped me with that. And I started to learn other people's songs. Now, I progressed further, and the thing about guitar is, which is really strange, is you need to be really patient with it. But then you get to a point when you're playing that you sort of have a breakthrough in what you're doing. So, for instance, like I was talking about before, there's this style of playing that I heard, and I'm like, I really want to get that down. That sounds so badass. I just want to do it. So I'll pick up my guitar and I'll try and practice it until it sounds like that. And the thing is a lot of my playing was playing by ear and learning those techniques exactly like that. When I was 13, we didn't have so much help from YouTube. I couldn't look through a playthrough and someone say, you need to bend the string this way, or you need to turn that pick sideways towards your thumb, and you need to just let that pick barely reflect and then have your thumb hit that string to get that harmonic pinch in order to get that to ring out. There kind of wasn't that. So I had to practice over and over and over until I could get that sound. And then I got older and older and older, and then I ended up getting into things that I really wanted to learn, like sweep picking and alternate picking and all these moderate to advanced techniques that I really fell in love with my progressive style of metal guitar playing. But I would practice over and over, and then I would have these breakthroughs in playing guitar, and it would feel so amazing. I would listen to these songs, and I would be able to comprehensively compare them to what I was playing. And then the feeling I was getting would just illuminate me. It's something I have never felt before. And then I started growing older, more into my teenage years. And I had friends from that age who shared a common interest with me about music. I had another friend that played guitar who was leagues above me in playing guitar and showed me all these things I learned from him. And him and I would get together one-on-one, and we would start playing together, and he would show me all these things. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And then I had a friend who was ultra interested in drumming and had natural rhythm. So he would come over. And now, back then we didn't have the money to scrape together to get this $3,000 drum set. So we got these pails, and we got these pots and pans and these trash can lids and all this stupid stuff. And my friend, he lived in this cabin house that was next to where his parents' house was. And we would all set up there. And then I had another friend that had a cheap bass guitar. And another friend that played guitar. Well, we had 3 guitarists there. We had a bassist there, and we had a drummer there. And then we would all we would learn a song. We'd talk about a song we wanted to learn of a band we liked, and then we would all play it. We'd practice it at home, and then we'd come to practice, and then we'd be all off time, and it would sound like shit. But we would keep going, and then we would just kind of get it all a little bit in time. And then it came to a point where eventually our drummer boy, he ended up getting, a decent little first act set, this introductory thing that he would get together, but it would actually sound like a real drum set, and we could actually put things together in a real way, and we started doing that. And then there's some times where we'd have more complicated songs that we kind of couldn't learn. We're like, well, we really want to feel something from this. So we had this big stereo system in that cabin. So we set it all up. And we're like, who cares if we can't play it? Let's pretend we can play it. Let's pretend we're having this badass concert, and we would crank the music up, and we'd have all our instruments down low, and we would just pretend that we were playing it out, and we just have the time of our lives. Well, then further years grew, and we kept practicing with each other, and then eventually, some of us went off to college, and some of us started working. So we ended up kind of breaking that up. We thought, it's like we really didn't start ourselves like an actual garage band that progressed into something. But a couple years later, we still kept close, and then we started talking, and we're like, well, what if we actually got together just to hang out and just kind of jam? All of us have been going through the years practicing our instruments regardless. And what if we got together and we just started playing and see where we're at, just for fun, So we ended up doing that. And we got together and around, and then the first few sessions was just like kind of just screwing around, getting to know each other's chemistry a little bit more and more. And then we picked a cover from a band that we all like, and we're like, well, let's just try to learn it. But we had 3 guitarists, and I was one of them. And we thought, we don't need 3 guitarists. One of us, this song has lyrics. This song has vocals. We need to pick somebody to sing it out. And 2 of the guitarists were like, not it. And that left me. And I'm like, this has never fallen in my wheelhouse before. I was never kind of really, I do sing songs in the car or sing in the shower, but I'm like, I'm not. But, we're just doing this for fun, so screw it. Well, I'll just try it. And we proceeded with this cover, and I gave it a try. And, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the way it made me feel. This is where part of the physiology of music came in. I fell in love with the emotion because when I was putting through those lyrics that meant something to me, I could feel them resonate through me. And it fell into my lap. And I looked at the other guys and I said, we need to start writing our own stuff. And they looked at me and like, we would love to. Let's get together every week. Let's just practice. We'll start writing. And a friend of my lead guitarist friend, Jeremy, had such an amazing style. And he brought such creative, artistic style to the way he played guitar. So we started writing based off of that. And we wrote something, and I kind of played along with humming and just going along with a melody that I could produce with the songs that we had or that we were starting to write. And then we got to the point to where we practiced them enough to where we had a full-bodied song, 2 full-bodied songs, this, that, where we started putting our phones around the room and we'd all record because we don't know how the acoustics were going to be at that time, the levels we were at, but we needed whatever the clearest one was, we would take, and it would get sent to me so that I could go home and I could practice writing lyrics to, I could practice singing them. So we started doing that. And then I wrote lyrics, and then I came back to practice, and we put it all out there. And we turned to each other, we're like, holy crap, this sounds, we love how this sounds. This sounds like a car crash of inspirations that we've all gathered throughout the years. And we couldn't help but smile at each other. And we would go to practice in the evening, and we would get done early in the morning because we would just fall in love with the way this was going. And we got through and we got several songs done. And we said, we've got these songs done. We need to get a hold of somebody who is going to be able to record these, get these on recording for us. So we found somebody and they said, yeah, I'd love to record you guys. Can you kind of send me a little snapshot of what you do? And, all we can do is like, here you go. Here's like a little live video of us playing something. And, he said, I can work with this. I'm going to schedule you a booking into my studio. You come. And it was kind of the coolest thing. It's not what you would expect. So we end up at this studio where I feel our earliest album, where I feel the quality of the music that was produced out of where we had to produce it ended up being so awesome. Like what he had to work with and where it was. So we got to this place. We got an address and we drove there. And it was this apartment complex. And we messaged him and he said, we think we're here, but we're in front of an apartment complex. And he says, oh yeah, you're at the right place. You just need to come up to the third floor and I'm this and this and this room. Just knock on the door. And I'm in the studio right now. I'm getting things set up, but my girlfriend will answer. And we're like, okay. And so we go up to this third floor and we get to this room and knock on the door. And she ends up opening the door. And we're like, we're here for our studio session. And it's just this little apartment. It was like a one room, one bathroom, little living room like this. And we're like, we're going to record here? And we come in and he says, hey, he gives his name and we're like, well, nice to meet you. And he says, well, okay, guys, I got you here because we are going to go over what we need to do. But then what we need to do is I need to get your drums pushed through and everything else. The second session that we ended up recording with him, he's like, we're going to drive to this movie theater that my parents own. It's a perfect opportunity for him to actually record this type of music. He says drums, vocals happen with the acoustics there. Drums, vocals will literally happen where people watch movies. So we do that. Drums, come back to his apartment where he has all the software and everything. And he's like, okay, this is an enclosed space. We're going to do guitars. We're going to do bass, push that through, go back to the studio, the movie theater. And he's like, all right, vocals happen here. And we get it all done and we wrap up. And our band name is officially now Forever in Gray. We ended up getting album art done by an amazing album artist from the Ukraine. And finally, we're out there somewhere. So we decided, we're going to start booking some shows. And our first show was in central Minnesota at this it's basically like a little game shop. And we didn't expect too much. There was a local band that was playing there, and we didn't know much about them. And we ended up starting to play there. And more people started coming through the door. And we didn't have a great turnout, like not an immaculate turnout, but that room that we were in was starting to fill up. And we had a great reaction from people there. And like when I say I went to go see concerts, I would have this feeling about me that would want to be exactly where they're at, syncing with people, inspiring people, and helping people and getting people through hard days. Because as I sat there at concerts sometimes, when shit was rough at home, that became escapism for me. And I thought, what if I could do that for somebody? And getting this little EP out and getting shows to play gave me a little taste of that. and the way they reacted and how people really enjoyed what we put together, we made friends that day. We met new people that day. We all felt the physiology of music come together that day, because there's something super intimate about a smaller room where you can play a show like that you wouldn't believe. But then we said we need to get our next show. So we did. We got a hold of a promoter and we booked a show in downtown Minneapolis with some larger name bands in which we did not expect to book a show like this with. And the nerves shot up a little bit, but we got to do exactly what we're meant to do. So we thought, it's just another show. And then we end up getting down to this venue, and sound check's about to start. So we do ours, and our amplifier head blows. And we're like, oh, shit. And my guitarist doesn't know what to do. And I said, well, we have no choice, but we have to ask another band if we can use their amp head with our cab. So we asked one of the other bands, and so thankful to this day that they said, no problem, man, we got you. We're all in this together. And the thing about the music scene that we were in is there is so much acceptance in it. And there are so many people I met that were the nicest, sweetest people that you could find. So they set us up, and we did our sound check, and we're about to go on. And this place, we didn't expect for this many people to be here listening. But we went on and we did our best, and we did really good and had a lot of energy and had a good crowd reaction and loved every minute of it. And what's so amazing about that moment and how it relates to the physiology of music is the emotional space in which I experienced that very night. And I will never forget this moment. I will never forget that. When I was up on stage and we had our first intro to our first song come on, I would announce to people that on my count, when this song starts, they need to jump up and down on my count of 4. Excuse me. And I counted to 4. And as I started jumping up and down, I looked out at that crowd, and I could feel the exact moment in which I came in sync with everyone there, like a connection had been made. And I felt a taste of that when I would go to concerts, but there was nothing like that full connection when it happened while I was on stage. When I was separated and I was in this space and I could just see everyone's energy match mine. Unbelievable. There have been rough moments in my life, or rough moments in my day, rather, that were wiped away by what I had felt. And so we progressed from there. We ended up writing more EPs. We ended up doing more music videos. My guitarist Jeremy ended up moving. We ended up finding another guitarist, ended up writing through things, ended up getting on a record label for some years, and playing all over the place. And it's the most amazing experience I've ever felt in my life. It was me living my dream, my bandmates living our dream. And it will lead into everything else I talk about in this episode about what causes all of this and what it actually means and why it's so special to me. But like I was saying, the EPs came, music videos came, promotions came, different shows came, pandemic hit, and then we stopped playing. Where was my journey after that? it wasn't that things were shattered from me after things kind of disbanded. Everyone started, life happened and everyone started going their own separate way. So it wasn't about a dream shattering from me. I lived my dream. That was sole purpose. But what I ended up feeling was this feeling of, what's next? So what am I doing now? Well, I will never relinquish my creative freedom because as of now, I have everything in my right because I have a studio and I have a drum set and I play guitar and I play drums and I can do bass and I can play piano and I sing and I write lyrics. So I just started creating music on my own and I started writing music on my own because I love it, because I love the feeling that it gives, because the benefits that it is, because it's not just a hobby for me, it's a therapeutic hobby. And I have not released any of it yet. Everything's still locked in a crate, but maybe someday I'll post it all out there. But it was able to give me like this soul freedom of my style of what I feel a direction could go. And there's benefits to both sides. When you're writing with other people, there's this amazing aspect of all the ideas that they have. And then the soul side of things, there's like, okay, I don't have to rely on a time frame. I don't have to rely on like what else comes into play besides what my style is or where my style wants to go. So that had been an amazing thing for me as well. So I am still obviously active in music, and I will never relinquish music from my life as long as I live. And I'm very proud of what it has done for me, and not just proud of what has done for me, but very thankful for what music has done for me. It has gotten me out of such like crazy funks and has gotten me out of really tough places. And I owe quite a bit to music and am very thankful for what it's given back to me. So, as far as the physiology of it, I've read some things from the National Institute of Health as well as Harvard University about the profound effects that music has. And one of them mentions like brain engagement and neuroplasticity. So they've actually taken people in educational settings that are of younger years. So younger people that are, going through grade school and things like that up through senior high school, as well as much older people that have, like dementia or Alzheimer's and things like that. And they'll go through and they'll use music therapy to see what the benefits of cognitive behavior increases as well as memory. And there had been significant results according to the National Institute of Health. And other things like emotional regulation and stress management have been an obvious thing because I think there's a lot of us that can relate to this. You have a bad day at work and you're driving home and you need to decompress and you put on your favorite song. There's almost this escapism aspect where you can sit there and listen to this music, this favorite group of sounds, organizational sounds that just take you away from all the wrongdoings of the day. And it just kills all the bad emotions that you had, and it can lift you up. I've had days where it's done that for me. As far as cognitive enhancement, there's proof in that. Excuse me with this coughing. I've had times where, I don't necessarily try to recall a memory, but I will hear specific songs or a specific artist, something that would surface memories. They would resurface memories. And there's proof that music will relate to memory because, well, let's take an example. You have a man and a woman who are very happy together and they decide they're going to get married. And when they go to get married, they both decide on their song. And the song that will be their first dance. And they decide on it and they do their first dance. Do you think that either one of them, for the majority of their life, that they will ever forget their song? They link such a special memory to it. They'll hear that song and they'll relive that memory. And that's a profound effect on the human mind if organized vibration can cause something like that. There's another aspect of music that relates to social well-being or social connection. But it's interesting because this Harvard medical study took over 800 people within the United States as well as abroad, and they took 3 categories. They took evolutionary, and then they took emotional, and then they took social. And they divided those 3 categories, and they had a list of questions for all of these people in regards to each category. And they randomized them. And then they took all the results and they put them on a graph and looked at which ones were more significant. And the one that topped the list was emotional effects of music, or reasonings why people listen to music. The second most prominent was actually evolutionary. And then the third was social. And it took me a little bit by surprise because I thought to myself, when all of the hundreds of concerts I've been to, the people that gather at these concerts, there's so much social interaction there and good vibes there, and people are just like talking to strangers and doing this and doing that. And, I thought like, oh, social has to hit number 1. But then I started to take a look at the questions. And some of them were, well, I listen to music so I have more friends. And I listen to music to relate to my parents. And this and that. And as I go down these questions, I'm like, it starts to make a little bit of sense to me. So if you've got an artist or a group of musicians that are going to be playing, you're not necessarily playing so that you can go out and meet new people. You're going to see them because in some way or another, their music, their lyrics, the way they sound have impacted you. You love them so much. So you're actually going there for the emotional reasons why, instead of, I'm just going there to get with people, because you and some of your friends are going to have the same likes. So you're going to invite your friends anyway, and you're going to go with your friends, and there's just going to be a congregation of people. So it's not necessarily, oh, I'm alone, I'm going there to meet people. No, it's the emotional aspect. So that made total sense to me. On the evolutionary sense of music, it related to Darwinism. And I read about this, and it's very interesting about that. And the evolutionary discussions of music can already be found in the writings of Darwinism. And basically what it boiled down to was, on an evolutionary scale, Darwinism had a perception that people would engage in music thousands and thousands of years ago to basically peacock, to basically be of a social status so that you could procreate. Now, if you look at society today, if you have famous musicians, if they have the luxury of being able to make music, well, then on an evolutionary scale, they believe that, well, you're going to have sex appeal. And in modern day, musicians do tend to have sex appeal. So I can see the relation between evolution and the physiology of music. I can see how strong the emotional aspect of music is. And I can see where, like the tapering off of the social aspect is, but it is a very important thing, the social aspect. It's almost like, what do you want to call it? Like auxiliary portion of the reason why the physiology of music exists. And that can actually connect back to the evolutionary traits of the physiology of music, because way back when things as far as getting food and stuff like that wasn't so easy, we all depended upon each other. We all depended upon each other to gather water, gather food, build shelter, create fire, protect each other from predators, protect each other from neighboring tribes, things like that. So there, and you know, obviously the procreation and the dominant trait passing of people. So society has always needed to avoid isolation. So with the emotional aspect, there could be a tie into wanting to avoid that emotional or social isolation. Therefore, the emotional decree of needing to be around other people, as well as feeling a good side of vibrations, so we got together in congregation. And that made a lot of sense for me. There's a lot of things within music that help people with different disorders. They help people with, there's been studies shown that they help people with autism, as well as showing studies where people with PTSD have been helped throughout the way. So there are a lot of aspects of music that tie into that physiology. And well, that will be a conclusion to today's episode. I very much am thankful for everyone who joined me today and was to sit here and listen about the physiology of music with me and why I feel it's such a special therapy. It's been such a great thing for me. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that music helps. It's helped me. And it's proof that it's a really good form of therapy. So if you have any questions about today's episode, please again email me at noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to get to them. If you want to become a live guest, calling guest on this show, noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, I go live every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube and Twitch. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Links are in the bios. Please like, subscribe, share, follow. Whatever you need to do, I would really, really appreciate that. And while we're on the show, I do have a Discord server open that you can join in chat on, as well as chats on the other lives. So please join in on that too. And until next time, thank you very much, everybody. This has been No Room for Comfort.